Welcome back to Turning the Page. I'm Donnie Morse, and we're here with us Larry Mullins, who's written his book, Bodyguard to the Prophet. Larry, before we went to break, you had kind of talked about some threats that were imminent. But before we get to that, I wanted to go back. Bodyguard to the Prophet, a lot of us know about Porter Rockwell, about his duty as bodyguard to Joseph Smith, but there was another bodyguard, or there's other bodyguards, but one of them is actually buried here in Spanish Fork, Stephen Markham. You have some peculiar insight to those two gentlemen. Would you like to share a little bit with us about them?
Yeah, I think historians who look at those two would say that Stephen Markham was a bodyguard whose great strength was his great physical strength.
Oh.
And sometimes that's the kind of bodyguard that you need. Porter Rockwell, on the other hand, was small, not particularly strong. I don't know how he would do with more than one opponent if he was having to handle it physically. But one thing about Porter is that everyone that knew Porter said Porter hit whatever he aimed at. I think down the road, if we stop and look at it, and someday some historians are going to do that for sure, we may find out that Porter Rockwell was the best with a gun the West ever saw.
So like you, the Lord put in place men that he prepared to do a specific job as a bodyguard. And up to this point, your training, be it in the military or as a survivalist training at BYU and all these other things, got you prepared to be in the position to become the bodyguard, at that time, to President Lee. But you didn't do much there.
Well, got to stand next to his casket on the day of his viewing.
So he passed away right after the... Is calling the right word?
We were just getting everything. We had been training hot and heavy now for several months. And we're getting to the point because Brother Hollingshead was saying, we've got to get some coverage around President Lee. And everybody knows President Lee died of natural causes, so thank goodness we have to take credit for that. But about the time we were ready to jump in, he died. Some of the humor I'll share with you. All of the administrative folks that had anything to do with personnel and security thought that I was fit right in next to President Lee. I was 6'5" then. Lost a little now, age, I think. 250 pounds. Would have fit right in comfortably with President Lee. But with President Kimball, stuck out like a cyclops, except I had two eyes.
You were quite a big man compared to President Kimball.
Yes. And that never bothered him. I know that there were some that it bothered because they came to me and talked to me about it. And I went and I talked to President Kimball about it. And he said, I'm not worried about it. So there it stayed.
So as a bodyguard, you're supposed to kind of blend in and not be seen.
That's
really,
the idea.
But,
Is that
they
you're
were somewhat afraid that.
Look up there, they're supposed to see you as someone in some stake presidency. You're blending in with whatever's going on there. And it was always fairly obvious what I was, I think. When I'm get way ahead of myself now for just a second. Trips in Latin America, I think just the opposite was true. The presidents rated their importance almost by the number of bodyguards they had.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember, for example, sitting in the office, outer office, President's roster in Uruguay. And Paraguay, get lost here in a minute. 20 bodyguards. All had their coats open, they all had double sets of holsters on, and they all had automatic machine guns of some kind. And I was there by myself and trying awfully hard to look like that's okay. And my wife said to me coming over, there was something in the book she thought I took out and I didn't, but it's in there. We talked to a young man at the hotel that night who was related to one of the security guys. And he told us that they were taking bets on whether or not I was some kind of James Bond. Because I couldn't do that job and be alone if I wasn't, so.
Well, I have to interject here a question. I know that our viewers are going to want to know this. As church security, did you carry a weapon? Or could you carry a weapon? Or was that something you can even talk about maybe? I don't know.
No. That's
We're going to leave that up to the readers to find out in the book. Pick up a copy of Bodyguard of the Prophet by Larry Mullins, and you'll be able to read for yourself about weapons and guns and that, and we won't talk about that right here. But I want to go back to before the commercial break. We talked a little bit about threats, and there were at least 3 threats that you considered in the 3 years of service that you had that were of significance. And of course, we had the LeBaron brothers.
and they certainly were significant. There's a big argument about that right now, but I think it could be safely said that there's over a dozen victims of the LeBarons as assassination goes. So they were serious.
So in their church, they had, shall I say, hitmen who that was their calling, so to speak, and to enforce what their prophet asked them to do.
Well, yeah, and
And
that
they
changed a lot. You had brothers that all wanted to be the prophet, and so Ervil got rid of Joel LeBaron and thought he would be the prophet, and the people went for Verland. And so Ervil went to try to kill Verland, and Verland came to general authorities.
He wanted some help.
And I think in many ways, Verland was a lot of help.